Hello everyone. I hope you all will be busy preparing for your main examination. Test series in anthropology optional. This is our humble effort to complement your preparation in one best possible way. Answer writing in anthropology. Guys, you are preparing for one of the toughest examination in the world. And as we know, you all will try your best to impress your examiner to score very well in the optional subjects. Not just in optional subject, in every single paper in which you are going to write. But answer writing in anthropology optional alone is slightly different from the way in which you approach the other subjects. There are few issues which one need to keep in mind while making a strategy for their anthropology preparation. In what way this subject is different from other subject. So let me explain you all these issues which one need to keep in mind while preparing for this examination using anthropology as your optional. And what are all the strategy which one is expected to follow. And it doesn't mean that we just have one single strategy which is so successful, and we cannot say that everyone should follow only this strategy. There are multiple ways by which you can approach this examination, and we can just give you some input about the best possible thing which you can do, and few mistakes which you are supposed to eliminate, or few mistakes which you are not supposed to do. Anthropology. Anthropology is the study of man. It's so interesting here because we discuss all the aspects of anthropology. Biological aspect, socio-cultural aspect, evolutionary aspect of human beings, both biological evolution as well as socio-cultural evolution. And our subject is largely skewed towards the study of primitive people, and that's what makes it very, very interesting. No other subject focuses on the simple societies, the primitive tribes. It's not always correct to call them as savages, but few refer them as savages, primitive tribes. But whatever may be the thing, it is a study of tribes which makes our subject which makes this anthropology very, very interesting. So now let us discuss how to plan your preparation. So if you look at the syllabus, so there are two papers, paper 1 and paper 2. We all know that both the papers carry equal marks, 250. But anthropology as such, if you consider the full syllabus, suppose if this is the full syllabus of anthropology, paper 1 in this roughly accounts for close to around 70%. And paper 2 only a very limited content. Generally what we do, people tend to start their preparation from paper 1, chapter number 1 to chapter number 12. And towards the end, they will start studying paper 2, chapter number 1 to chapter number 9 in paper 2. While doing so, what they will do, if they move from chapter number 1 to chapter number 12, there are few topics where you may get stuck from the beginning itself. For example, in the very front page of the syllabus, the chapter number 1.5. So this is chapter number 1.5, characteristics of primate. Evolutionary trend on the primate taxonomy. Primate adaptation, arboreal and terrestrial. Primate taxonomy, tertiary and quaternary fossil primates, major living primates, comparative anatomy of man and apes, and then skeletal changes due to erect posture and its implications. For example, this is not a topic which we are supposed to read initially. Once when we start reading the descent of man, our human biological evolution, that is the Pleistocene hominids like Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus, Dryopithecus, Australopithecus, Homo erectus, Neanderthals. You will get lot of idea about the various anatomical changes which happened in the human beings during the course of evolution. So once when you are just done with Australopithecus and Homo erectus to some extent, right, you will be in a position to approach this particular part of the syllabus a bit easily. But all those topics were mentioned below this. After this comes the topics related to the primitive apes or the fossil primates. We call them as fossil primates. Our human ancestors who lived few million years ago. 10 million years ago, 5 million years ago, we were in the form of Ramapithecus. 4 million years ago, we were in the form of Australopithecus. Almost 4 to 2 million years. Then 1 million years ago, we were in the form of Homo erectus. Then came the Neanderthals. So these are the topics. Once when you are done with this, almost all these topics becomes self-explanatory. Once when you are done with the post-cranial anatomy of Australopithecus, you will be very easy, you will be in a position to understand what are all the various anatomical changes or skeletal changes which happened during the erect posture. How the foramen magnum became more centrally placed. How the vertebral column got multiple arched. How the plate-shaped pelvis became bowl-shaped. How did that particular aspect in our femur bone, the so-called Tarsian angle of the femur bone, develop? What is that linea aspera? And how that linea aspera helped us or helped our primitive apes to have a bipedal locomotion. Even Australopithecus had a bipedal locomotion, though it is different from that of the modern Homo sapiens. Even some 3 million years ago, Australopithecus had a bipedal locomotion. So once when we are done with these topics, you will be in a position to understand even the comparative anatomy of man and apes. You will be in a position to know what is this arboreal adaptation, terrestrial adaptation. So the way in which the syllabus was designed in our anthropology is largely confusing and misleading. One cannot start from chapter number 1 and one cannot move up to chapter number 12. And if they do so, they'll get stuck here and there. And they'll spend some 2 or 3 months wasting with these topics. But there are a number of easy topics which are mentioned in the latter part of the syllabus. So the first thing which I request our people to do is, see, once when we are at this stage of your preparation, so you might have at least studied this anthropology once. So now you know at least what is the content there in the subject. So what you are supposed to do, try to classify the syllabus into 3. Into easy, moderate, and tough. Half the job is done now. So before that, keeping a copy of the syllabus is something very, very important. So just before starting your preparation, I just advise you, please go through at least the last 5 to 10 years. There is no need to go beyond that. At least last 10 years question paper. Try to read that leisurely. Try to spend some time with those papers. Do not just read it, just try to spend some time so that you can read that and you can understand what exactly your examiner is expecting from you, And we can also see one particular thing. In the UPSC examination, our civil services, right, generally this is not static. This is something very, very dynamic and things keep changing, keep evolving over time. This one need to keep in mind. So once when you analyze the last 10 years paper, you will be in a position to understand how the questions are evolving. For example, some 10 years ago, questions used to be straightforward. And even now, 70% of the questions in anthropology are straightforward. Our examiner will straight away throw the question in your face. Narmada man, write a short notes. Discuss the characteristics of Homo erectus. And one very big advantage in anthropology is there is very little scope for your examiner to ask confusing questions or misleading or complex questions like critically analyze, critically evaluate. Most of the science content are the science-based syllabus in our anthropology. From these topics, we can expect straightforward questions. So there is no need to analyze anything. There is no need to use your rock. There is no need to break your head to analyze and to give your interpretation. Okay. So first and foremost, try to laminate the syllabus copy. Make some 2-3 copies and laminate one copy. So once when you laminate that, it won't go missing very easily. So you will be in a position at least to identify where you have kept the syllabus. On one copy, I'll tell you, please try to paste it in your wall. So that always you'll have a look into your syllabus. So make yourself comfortable with every single word in your syllabus. Read it repeatedly. Spend some time with your syllabus first. Spend some time with the previous year question paper. You can do this for 3 or 4 days without reading anything. You just do it so that once when you are comfortable, yeah, this is what the content is and this is how the examiners are asking the question and this is what we are expected to do. Half the work is done. The next important thing is try to classify the content in the syllabus into easy, moderate and tough. This you can do only when you have some idea about the subject. If you have gone through or if you have studied it once, now you will be in a position to at least know that yeah, this topic is very easy, oh, this is really tough. And try to make some plan in such a way that do not make few people try they make a lengthy plan. I was seeing people making students making plan for 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time. If you even make a plan for 1 year at a time, oh my God. So if you make a lengthy plan, say for example, if you make a plan for 50 days, you need to wait for 50 days to know your performance. Only on the 50th day you will be knowing whether you have succeeded in your plan or not. On the 50th day you will get some feel like, God, my plan had failed, I need to work very hard. So again you will make a plan for 50 days, again you will start the preparation. This is a very, very, very wrong method of preparing. So try to make a simple plan. You need to have a long-term plan, no doubt, but it's always advisable to make small plans. So make a plan for 5 days. While making a plan, right, you make a bundle of few topics which are easy, which are moderately tough, and few which are very tough and challenging. In anthropology, 2 particular topics. One about the human primates or fossil primates, human fossil primates, where we discuss about the quaternary and tertiary fossil primates. Starting from Ramapithecus down up to the modern Homo sapiens like the Cro-Magnon man, Grimaldi man and the Chancellid man. So this is one thing, right, which you cannot read and finish it in a matter of 10 days. It is expected that you are supposed to spend a considerable time with these topics. So make it sure that in every single plan, suppose if your preparation is going to last for say 3 months. So make it sure that at least for 45 or 60 days you'll spend some time with these apes. Daily 1 hour, half an hour, 45 minutes, like that. You cannot just take it and you cannot finish it and move on to the next topic. Then there is one more topic, culture theories, chapter number 6. Culture theories. This starts from classical evolutionism, diffusionism, British school, German school, American school, historical particularism, functionalism, structuralism, structural functionalism, cognitive anthropology, cultural materialism by Melvin Harris, postmodernism. This is really a very awesome part in anthropology, and you cannot say this is tough, but one need to spend lot of time to understand these theories. Again, do not rush up here. Make it sure that you spend adequate time dealing with this. If somebody is really clever enough, or if somebody is really wise, what they will do, they will make it sure that they spend lot of time for paper 2. Most of the people I have seen, they do this particular error. Suppose before the main examination, if they have 3 months time, so what they will do, they'll start from the apes, culture theories, and they will drag on with this for some 45 days, and the major chunk of paper 2, right, they will not focus, and they will take it towards the end. This is a very big mistake actually. So from the beginning itself, start reading paper 2 also. That is something very, very limited. So if you spend more time with that, you will be in a position to study or know more case studies. You can enrich your answers with a number of contemporary events, contemporary examples. So it is very easy to score very good marks in paper 2. So out of 250, if you manage to score around 170 in paper 2, it's very easy. People are scoring. Then what you can do in the paper 1, even if you manage to score 120 or 130, your marks will be extraordinary. So keep this in mind while starting your preparation. So keeping this in mind, what we have did, we have designed one test series in such a way you will be in a position to finish these topics, the entire topic in anthropology, within a stipulated period of time. And there is one thing which we need to know. Our syllabus generally it is largely confusing and misleading. So which topic you need to read before which topic? For example, the very first topic in our chapter number 1 in anthropology, meaning, scope and development of anthropology. Comparison of anthropology with other disciplines like humanities, art sciences, life sciences, economics, etc. Without knowing what is anthropology, how one will be in a position to compare the subject with other subject? At the same time, once when you are comfortable with the subject, these topics become self-explanatory. So in the beginning, there is no need to prepare what is socio-cultural anthropology, what is archaeological anthropology, what is what do you mean by linguistic anthropology. So we are going to discuss in length about these topics in the later session. So which topic we need to read first, which we need to read in the end. At the same time, there are few chapters from which 100% you can expect some questions. For example, chapter number 10, human growth and development. Again, this is a lengthy topic, but I'm 100% sure this is something very important, and we may expect some question from this topic, from this content. Then you have chapter number 12, applied anthropology. One should be thorough in these topics because 100% there will be some question from these topics, and we are not supposed to leave this thing. So which topic, which portion we need to give more importance, which portion, right, we can just do it leisurely. So how our preparation can be so organized in such a way that within a stipulated period of time, how maximum we can increase our efficiency. So all these things, right, we have planned it, and I have designed one particular schedule for this examination, schedule for test series. Okay, so there will be around 12 part test and 2 full test. And we'll be mixing the topics from different areas. Like for example, the first test I'll be mixing a few UC topics like say religion, along with religion we can add political anthropology, something very easy. There is no need that one need to have extraordinary knowledge to read all these things. Anybody can read these topics. Then we will be adding some more topic like 2 apes. Australopithecus, Homo erectus, and one topic from paper 2. One topic from paper 2, prehistory of India. So this is how we will be planning our preparation so that in a timely manner you will be finishing every single topic, and by the end of the day you will be in a better position to answer, better position to approach the examination. And answer writing in anthropology is different from other subjects in a number of ways. Everyone right here wants to impress the examiner. We have a considerable amount of a science topic. Human biology, biological evolution. Applied human genetics. One need to be very, very careful while answering the questions from this topic. In the name of impressing our examiner, people may write something very much scientific. There's something common in other optionals. So you can write a scholarly answer. But here in anthropology, one need to keep in mind the answers which you are writing in science topics will be in such a way that even a layman can understand. For example, in physical anthropology, there are few topics which deals with DNA, chromosomes, protein synthesis, replication. DNA transcription or DNA replication. See here, one can even write the answers at molecular level. But we need to keep in mind, it's not somebody from biotechnology who is going to evaluate your paper. Our anthropologists, they are going to evaluate your paper. Anthropologists spend most of the time studying the primitive societies, rural societies, simple society, our social system, socio-cultural system, and very few time they devote for the physical or biological anthropology. So your answer should be in such a way that even a 10th class student will be in a position to understand what you are writing. This is very much important when you write an answer from the science topic. So in the name of impressing an examiner, do not write multiple content or tough content, what is expected from you? That alone you write here. If they ask you 2 plus 2 is equal to, just write 4. Or if you write 5 minus 1, it is acceptable. But if you make it may be a great answer, but for your examiner, it may look as if you have written something in Mandarin or Spanish, and you may tend to get very less mark. So one need to be very, very careful while writing the answers in the science topic. What exactly is the expected content? What your examiner expects from you in your answer? So that one need to analyze, or one need to be very careful while dealing with these topics. Then next is answers in paper 2, tribal studies. Tribal studies. People write, they go with a preconceived mind. This is something very important. Please listen to me. So you might have seen Sachin Tendulkar playing. If somebody is very well familiar with the game of cricket, but he had no clue about Sachin Tendulkar, and if he watches him playing in his 90s, just he came and he switched on the television, and Sachin Tendulkar, he was batting there, and he was in his 90s. Now this guy, he has no clue about who this batsman is, but he is very much familiar with the game of cricket. He's first looking at him, right? He'll say, is he a batsman? Can't he drive it in the covers? Can't he hook this ball? Why he is struggling like this? What makes Sachin Tendulkar to struggle in his 90s? So too much of load in his head. Oh God, I need to make the century. Another 4 runs, another 5 runs. He had made 90, 95 runs. He needed to carry that confidence to make just another 5 or 6 runs. But the pressure which he takes, it makes it look that he is an amateur, not so good in batting. The same thing. So while going for this main examination, our people also carry a lot of burden in their head. Like, I need to give a proper introduction, so I need to structure my answer, I need to give a conclusion. Well and good. If you are able to do it, do it. But it doesn't mean that for every single answer you need to give an introduction, you need to write a conclusion, etc. Suppose if they ask you about protein synthesis, there is no need to give an introduction here. You just start what is protein synthesis. So what is the process for DNA replication, transcription, what is translation, and how the translation results in the synthesis of protein. And there is no need to give any conclusion here. On the other hand, if there is a question where they ask you to critically analyze or critically evaluate, critically analyze the Lewis Henry Morgan's scheme of the evolution of culture, there you can say, right, you can give an introduction, who these classical evolutionists are, and what was their assumption like. And towards the end, you can give a very good conclusion like, yeah, these classical evolutionists, right, they were too much ethnocentric in considering their own culture as the superior culture. But it doesn't mean that for every single question you need to give an introduction, content, structure it, and then give a conclusion. Similarly, in tribal studies, people just go with a preconceived mind that they need to write a number of case studies. See, keep this in mind. Unless or until if they ask you directly to illustrate with some case studies, there is no rule that you need to write a case study for an answer. For most of the cases, right, our anthropologists have did lot of case study, and if you can mention those things, that is sufficient. For example, if they ask you to write about a nature-man spirit complex, so LP Vidyarthi, he studied this particular aspect among the Malays or Malbaharyas. What he studied there, how their society, how their economy, and how their social system, are interwoven, or how it is associated with the environment, and how the life is linked with all the aspects are linked together. If you write that case study, that is sufficient. And if they ask you to analyze the contemporary relevance of this concept, then you can give some important case studies or some important events which happened now, or like some issues related to relocation or rehabilitation of the tribes. You can take the Narmada issue, you can take the POSCO issue, and you can just write a little bit about that. But your examiner expects you to write about what LP Vidyarthi did. 70% of the content should be about what is the NMS complex and where he did the work and what he found among the Malayars or the Malpaharia of the Rajmahal Hills. Then towards the end, you can add some contemporary relevance like the applicability of the concept in the present day situation. Okay, good then. So we'll make a schedule, and I hope that our test schedule will help you in a better way to deal with the subject anthropology. So keep in touch. So we will soon update the test schedule, and my best wishes for your preparation. Thank you.